move back and forth between my mom and my dad's house every 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, my brother and sister stayed with my dad, and I moved back and forth every 2 weeks to make sure that I spent equal time with my parents. But they completely, both my parents, and I think they're guilty of this, they opted out of being parents.
Yes, because they were so concerned with their own relationship and its breakdown that they forgot that they also had a role as mother and father to you guys.
Yeah, but you know, the positive is you can learn a lot from it, and you can gain a lot from it. I'm a teacher now.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Bath Road.
My schooling at the time, but I was lucky enough to get into university and do. You know, I have 4 degrees, and you know, I was really lucky to do that. But it was really, really difficult, and I don't think children have the comprehension of the files in their minds to deal with watching their parents really go after each other.
Yeah.
When you're 10 or 11, you see that, and you don't have the tools to process it.
No, and actually it should never really happen. I mean, I appreciate relationships are really, really difficult at times, but to expose children to that kind of sort of unbridled...
In a quarter of a mile, continue straight onto Speedbird Way.
You know, emotions run high, and sometimes people can't keep a lid on them, Mark. That's the trouble. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Sure.
I'm only cutting you short just because I need to go to this brief break for the news headlines. Keep your calls coming in. I appreciate it's difficult to talk about such personal matters, but at the same time...
Continue straight onto Speedbird Way.
0345 6060973. You don't need to give me your real name, but tell me about your experiences of divorce. Let's first have the news.
Take the next left onto Colnbrook Bypass A4.
One-off tax on oil and gas companies to help families facing soaring energy costs from April. It would pay for a cut in VAT on energy bills that would save the average household around £100 a year. The Education Secretary says he's in favour of reducing the COVID isolation period from 7 days to 5.
Continue on A4 for 2 miles.
Nadeem Zahawi also denied reports the government is planning to charge for lateral flow tests in the future. The European Union says it's not too impressed with Foreign Secretary Liz Truss's threat to override parts of the post-Brexit agreement on Northern Ireland if negotiations fail. Ms Truss and the European Commission Vice President will have talks at her Chevening residence on Thursday. The weather, early evening showers in northern England and East Anglia fading, many areas turning cloudy overnight with rain in the west and a low of -1.
This is LBC.
This is Joe.
Hello.
Joe is passionate about flooring. Wood, laminate, even a classic textured pile. He loves his job and takes great pride in every little detail. Joe is with Trust a Trader. And there are thousands more just like him, all experts at what they do. So next time you need something doing, try Trust a Trader to find a verified local tradesperson with great reviews. You can always trust a trader. Cheers, Joe.
Excuse me, is there a cash point near here?
Of course, end of this street. Exactly 48 steps for someone 5'11" with size 10 feet. Then turn 90 degrees counterclockwise and continue for 341 metres. That's 372.922 yards in old money. Then add
At Zeiss, we pride ourselves on being precise. Really precise. Engineering innovative technology into every lens we make. All subtly engraved with our signature hallmark. Zeiss lenses. Precision you can see. Available at Boots Opticians.
Look forward to flying again as Singapore Airlines brings you Australasia. Explore Australia, New Zealand and beyond on board the world's most awarded airline. Enjoy an unforgettable experience with incredible service and warm hospitality. Flying to Australia from just £693 return. Book with flexibility today at singaporeairlines.com. Singapore Airlines, a great way to fly. Date exclusions and terms apply.
booking a hotel can be a bit of a hassle. The fake reviews, the endless options, not to mention the fear of getting a bad deal. But with Premier Inn, you can cast all those worries aside, because with us, you know exactly what you're getting. Like great value family rooms in over 800 locations, plenty of parking, and delicious food to please everyone, even the fussy ones. So you can family trip without any of the faff. Premier Inn. Rest easy. Only available to book at premierinn.com.
A few too many? Lots of us are feeling it. Those extra pounds adding extra strain to our bodies. Now's the time to get things started, one way or another. To shop smarter, eat better, and move more. Getting started is easier than you think. For free tips and tools to lose weight, search Better Health. Let's do this.
Camilla Tominey on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Welcome back at 6:35, and we're talking about divorce and your experiences of divorce, because tomorrow marks, I suppose, a national divorce day of sorts, because it's the day when apparently most people contact a lawyer and say that they want to divorce or separate from their partner, and it comes after Christmas because frankly Christmas is stressful enough to push anybody over the edge. But I would add that the pandemic probably hasn't made things easier for a lot of couples. Just read out a few tweets and texts now. Tony's tweeted at LBC to say, we are still way behind other countries when it comes to divorce. Like many men, I have little contact with my children as there is an incentive for resident parents to limit access. Very sad for everyone involved, but needs reforming. Men are losing their lives. Another Tony says, getting divorced was the best thing we could do. It's been 25 years and we are still friends. We just couldn't live together. Nobody's fault. That reminds me of a really, I think, good quote about divorce, which is, it isn't a lack of love that ends a marriage, it's a lack of friendship. And if the friendship goes and you become enemies, that's when things get very difficult. Susan's a family mediator. She says the rate of divorce is also higher as the world has changed. The highest rate of divorcees are the silver splitters over 60. If you think for these people in their 70s, 80s and a bit later, women were often at home. Now those women and men have huge equity in homes, pensions and an ability to support themselves, versus the young where early 20s don't have the role models anymore to reflect commitment in marriage. That's not a bad thought, is it? Jeff in Aylesbury says, can't call as I'm at work, but my divorce was the best money I ever spent. I've even got my decree absolute framed and hanging up. Fair enough, Jeff. Let's bring in Kate Daly now. She's a divorce expert, but she's also the co-founder of Amicable, which enables couples to divorce more affordably and amicably, and she hosts a divorce podcast. Kate, thanks for joining us. How do you divorce amicably? Tell us the secret.
Hi, thank you for having me. Well, I don't think there is a secret. It's a lot of hard work. But I think if you start off on the right foot, then there is a pathway to an amicable divorce. Of course, there will always be exceptions, but I'm talking about the vast majority of people where there aren't any red flags or danger signs, there isn't any danger to either person. And in that case, I think one of the key things to do is just to take a little bit of time at the beginning so that you're not doing it when emotions are really raw and people are still very upset and reeling from the breakdown of the marriage, but to recognize that you might be in quite different places. For example, the person who's instigating the divorce is often, more resigned to the fact they might have been thinking about it for a while, whereas the other person who's potentially hearing the news for the first time, they're going to go through a whole bunch of emotions around shock and upset and disbelief and anger, and they really need to work through those emotions before you can have a reasonable conversation that plans out how you're going to manage the process of separating yourselves and how you're going to co-parent your children if you've got children, because that's the really important thing in all of this.
So it sounds like, Kate, you're kind of pointing towards playing the long game here, but also maybe mediation. Is that what you advocate?
Well, some form of negotiated settlement and some way of working as a couple is definitely what I would advocate, and lots of people in this kind of industry would say the same. Where it's safe to do so, if you can work together as a couple rather than going off to two separate lawyers and creating two sides, you're always going to stand a much better chance of coming out with an agreement that you can both live with and both work with and move on from.
Just explain that, Kate. So is it possible for a couple to go to one lawyer then and have one lawyer thrash it out?
No, not at the moment. Lawyers are sort of bound by a code that says they have to act in the best interests of their individual clients. So lawyers don't typically work with couples for that reason.
So it has to
what's called a conflict of interest.
Yeah. So it becomes adversarial, even if you're not trying to make it so, because people have a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. The system works against you in that way.
But what's the alternative to that? Trying to work it out between you both?
Well, there are different services set up. So I run Amicable. We're a negotiation service. So you can come and use a couples service like ours, where we'll work with you to set some goals. So what you want the future to look like. We'll help you do your full financial disclosure, so you know what you're dealing with, and then we'll look if these are the goals that you want to achieve, and these are the resources you've got to play with. How can we best split these resources to meet these goals? And then we'll work through the different options that might generate and help you work together, thinking about your family, your specific family. You know, if you've got children, what's going to be best for them? How are you going to work as co-parents? And then we'll create a framework that you can then ask the court to approve and have a sealed consent order.
Okay.
So and you can do that sort of thing in mediation as well. So if you don't want to use a negotiation service, you can use a mediation service. They're different types of services, but essentially the principles are the same. It's working as a couple to come up with an agreement that works for you.
In 200 yards, at the roundabout, continue straight onto London Road A4.
Approve that agreement and make it legally binding, because that's the important thing. If you just do a private agreement yourself, then you leave yourself open to claims in the future. So a private agreement just between you, even if you're divorced, your partner can still make a claim against you in the future, even if that's 20 or 30 years later. So any wealth that you might build up is at risk. So just making a private agreement isn't necessarily a good way forward.
You've got to have it rubber stamped, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
That's
you've got to
great.
have it approved by the court, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's Kate Daly. She's a divorce expert, a co-founder of Amicable, which enables couples to divorce more affordably and amicably. She also hosts the Divorce Podcast. Let's bring in Joe now, a new caller from Streatham. Joe, what's your experience?
I had a really, I don't know how to describe it really, because in my case we had a separation, and then following the separation I applied to contact the market. And
in a quarter of a mile, at Langley Roundabout, take the second exit onto the M4 slip road to Maidenhead, Reading.
There was one of those where my ex-partner and her family had a lot of acquisitions, so we went to like 6 months of supervised contract.
Yes.
Paid for buying me, and then after that, anyway, we went through the court process and the court granted me contract right. So I remember on the first day when I went to actually pick up my kids, my ex-partner did not bring the kids at all. So I went again to court, went for an enforcement of an order. The judge at that time, she couldn't commit out of prison or anything because she had 3 children. And then I got, the enforcement of an order. And that did not work as well. So I went again. They had to revise the contact order to say, in fact, now you have to pick them from school, which meant I never had a full week at work. Because I have to always leave work early because to pick the kids from school. That was the only way I had contact. Anyway, so following that, I then actually went for the divorce.
Exit the roundabout onto the slip road.
Because my case was one where I had no issues with my partner at all.
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
We're good, we didn't have any problems at all. The whole problem started when we were having our last daughter, because the eldest sister of my wife, my ex-dad, didn't have a child. So I remember in hospital, my wife said to me, "Oh, can we give this child to my elder sister because she hasn't got a child?"
Oh wow!
And I said, "Well, I don't understand what you're saying. I said, because your children, your sister's children in a way." And so I don't think.
It would be an absolutely.
Continue on M4 for 3 miles.
Hugely complicated relationship.
Yeah, so what do you really mean? So now we just give back to my elder sister, even though we're going to see her around, but she never know where. I said, no, I can't do that.
No. And did that ended it basically, Joe? Right?
Yeah, when I said I couldn't do that, my ex-wife was okay, but she was under so much immense family pressure, So that kind of thing where we had a bit of an argument, and then she told my sister, me and TJ are having an argument, can you come on and get the kids and all this kind of stuff? She phoned the police, because she was not there. She phoned the police and said, TJ and ex-wife there wants to kill the wife and the kids. Anyway, the police came, and then after that, as soon as I left there, I said, TJ and my ex-wife said, you have to go and beg my sister for you to come to them.
Okay.
I haven't done your sister anything.
So Joe, just
Yeah.
the long and I was going to say the long and short of it, just for time reasons, is where are you now with it? Are you seeing your children, and do you have any relationship at all with your ex?
Yes, I have seen my children. The eldest is actually 17.
Yes.
So, I mean, we've got to the point where my children actually know that the people who don't really want to get married. Because they are in this
Yes.
situation where I see them, but the family are in absolute control of them. You know,
Yeah.
so if there are times, if I want to see them, if they...
In 2 miles, at junction 6, take the A355 exit to Slough Central.
see them for like a whole month.
Yeah.
Because they would, the moment they were physically, then I sent them to their home.
So it's not just you against your ex, it's you against her family, basically,
No.
Joe.
It's me against, my ex. And the unfortunate thing is, she is not well. She's got cancer.
Oh,
So really, my kids are young parents.
yes.
But the thing that she's holding on to is that, okay, I definitely want the child support and all of these things. So I'm not letting these children go. And then, the brothers, they don't live there, but they'll come.
Okay.
They are in charge of everything that happens.
Joe, I just need to leave it there just for time reasons, but thank you for sharing that story. I think what Joe's illustrated there is how complicated matters become when children are involved. And what are the best tools to use to try and make sure that the children are insulated from the breakdown of your own marriage? I'm going to discuss more on that after this. Do keep the calls coming through. It's 0345 6060 973. We're going to try and squeeze in a quick update from the Novak Djokovic situation over in Australia. It's 6:45 and you're listening to Camilla Tomley on LBC.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Rachel Johnson.
As a handful of young protesters walk free after toppling a statue of a slave trader into Bristol Harbour, was a jury right to acquit the Colston Four of criminal damage?
Rachel Johnson on LBC.
If you want to lose weight, it's not about getting it right, but getting started. Healthy changes start with little changes, one way or another, and help you to feel better inside and out. So you'll be healthier and more able to fight diseases. Download the free NHS weight loss app. Better health. Let's do this.
Introducing the new McPlant. It's everything you love about McDonald's taste.
In a 1/4 mile, at junction 6, take the A355 exit to Slough Central.
A delicious vegan cheese alternative, vegan sandwich sauce, juicy tomato, onions, crisp lettuce, and of course, gherkins. Or not, the choice is always yours. It's our iconic taste, plant-based. For information about
Exit at junction 6.
UK/McPlant. Served after 11 AM, subject to availability.
If you've lost your car key or need a spare, search Car Keys Solutions.
In a 1/4 mile, at the roundabout, take the 3rd exit onto Tuns Lane, A355.
Home counties, getting you back on the road or securing your vehicle. For replacement car keys, vehicle security and protection, search Car Keys Solutions, the team with thousands of 5-star ratings. Car Keys Solutions. Fast, affordable, trusted.
Nothing beats a lovely hot shower in winter. But if the worst happens and your boiler breaks down, British Gas Home Care cover includes all parts and labour, so there's no surprise repair bills. But if you forget your towel and have to dash past your in-laws, well, you're on your own there. Sign up by the 7th of February and we'll throw in protection for your plumbing, drains and electrics at no extra cost. Search British Gas Home Care. Terms, exclusions and geographical restrictions apply. Free additional cover is for 12 months and auto renews at the end of the free period. New customers only.
If you want to go big on
Exit the roundabout onto Tuns Lane.
used cars and big on bargains, there's only one place to go. Big Motoring World, with thousands of cars for you to choose from.
Continue on A355 for 1 mile.
Live big on what matters to you. Big Motoring World. Winter sale now on in Enfield, Westmoreland, and Bluebell Hill. Or at bigmotoringworld.co.uk.
There's lots of big reasons to quit smoking this January. Your circulation improves, giving you more energy to keep up with the ones you love. There's big savings to be made. Quitting could put around £36 back in your pocket each week. And there's big health reasons too, like reducing your risk of lung disease, heart disease and cancer. Whatever your big reason for quitting, make this January your fresh start. For free NHS support to quit smoking, search Smoke Free.
better health. Let's do this.
Camilla Tominey tweets at LBC.
It's 10 to 7. I'm going to come back to your calls on divorce in just a jiffy. First, though, let's speak to Nick Lester, who's a tennis broadcaster and commentator, about the latest in the Novak Djokovic case. What's going on, Nick? Is he ever going to play in this Open, do we think?
I think it's probably 50-50 right now, to be honest, just looking at how things are evolving. Clearly the last 24 hours wasn't particularly good for him in terms of the news coming out of his movements around December the 17th, when of course he had tested positive on December the 16th. That was the case for him saying he should be allowed to be in Australia. But of course, pictures having emerged in the last 24 hours, the day later he was given an awards ceremony, is not going to do him any favours. So there's a big court hearing tomorrow morning in about 12 hours from now, and yeah, it's very much in the balance. I think to be honest, I think it's probably unlikely that we'll see him playing in Australia, given everything that's occurred, but time will tell.
So basically D-Day is we'll know by the end of play tomorrow, pardon the pun, whether he's in or out.
Exactly.
And what do we think overall it's done for his reputation, Nick? I suppose there are some who are championing him and saying it's a complete infringement of his civil liberties, and others who think he should have just been more open about his vaccination status.
Exactly, and I think, to be honest, even most people within tennis circles and within sporting circles really knew where he stood with regards to his vaccination status, the way he lived his life. He's been kind of fairly open about that, to be honest. So, so much discussion was coming into at the end of last year with, Australia being on the horizon. It's obviously a tournament he's done so well at.
And he wanted to beat that record, didn't he? Wasn't it 21 Grand Slams with the Australian Open?
And he still does.
Still time, Nick. I know you'll be following it closely. Thanks very much for joining us. Obviously, LBC will give you updates on that situation as and when it comes. Back to the discussion now on divorce. Keep the calls coming in. We've got a little bit more time. 0345 6060 973. David's in Manchester. David, what's your experience of this?
I'm going through the divorce process at the moment, and there's the financial aspect of it, and there's also the other aspect which is regarding the children.
Yeah.
And they're both dealt with in separate courts. Now, where I'm up to, I have to be careful what I say, but enforcement orders have been made in both courts, and X continues to ignore them.
Yeah. And what do you do in that situation?
Going back to court, say she hasn't provided the details that the court's ordered, they issue another order, and she just continues to ignore it.
I mean, this withholding of contact with children just must be torturous.
Yeah, it's been going on now for 3 years. I was a stay-at-home dad, as it were, looking after the children while she had a really good career.
Wow. And how old are they, David?
I best not give
No, okay, fair enough.
Children.
Yes.
Let's say they're around 10 years old.
Yeah. So it's doubly difficult if you had so much contact with them before.
Absolutely. And the most I'd be the main carer for them until X would come home like late at night. So we had the traditional roles reversed. And then she met someone else, and she would only allow me to see them an hour and a half twice a week, at a time and place of her choosing.
And that's not what you want at all. What would you like? How much would you like to see them? Have half the week?
Well, that's funny you should say that. That's as things are at the moment. So Monday to Friday, they're with me for 3 nights for the first week, and the second night they're with me for 2. So it's 50-50 during the week.
Is that okay?
But the funny thing is about the order is we get no weekends together.
Right. And you're obviously having to work and things. Yeah.
So we knew, and that's all she would agree to.